It will. I think it'll wake them up when they walk in.
It grows on you.
Yeah, so do warts.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, a lot of things grow on you.
That's valid,
Yeah.
Brad.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yes.
We're live now. Welcome, guys. Thank you for being here. We're kind of excited. When we first talked about doing something like this was one of the first ideas that we had. That if we want some viewership, we should bring back Alan and Brad. I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be very interested to see you back here. I know the summer that we were in between instructors, man, the students really liked it when you were here, Alan. I mean, they talked and talked and talked about that. So I think you're going to find that there's a lot of other people that are wondering what you two have been up to, and what's life thrown your direction since some of the students' time here. So thank you both for being here.
You bet.
So looks a little different up here.
Yes.
We tried to make it a little bit better. That's why we call it above the classroom, because if you've been through the program, you get it. So
This is a better use of this space than what it was being used.
Yeah, it was. Yes. Yeah, I always knew there was stuff up here, but I didn't know for sure what or where.
Well, we're not completely past that.
Yeah, we're still there.
Yeah. We still find things sometimes that,
Little trinkets. I'm like, oh, I could actually use that in
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Yeah. I found a Gen 4 monitor up here, brand new. Oh, actually, Scott did.
Yeah.
Found a brand new Gen 4, never been open, didn't know it was here, nothing. So it was a good find. It's almost like finding money in your pocket at laundry day.
Yeah.
So, what do you think of the place? It's changed a little bit since maybe since you've been here last, for sure, because you were talking about the offices in the back that are no longer there. It's been a little longer since you've been here, Brad.
It has. I've been in and out a couple times. Classrooms certainly look different.
Like the
Floors
floor.
are interesting. I'll just use that word.
Yeah.
They're
I
interesting.
say they're different. Yes.
Different.
You've got grandchildren, right?
13.
Have they puked? And then, like, does that remind you of that? Because that's what it reminds me of.
That's what happens when you say no yellow.
Yeah. Yeah.
you would end up with
Lots of
You
yellow.
end up with lots of yellow when you
You
say
have to
no
use
yellow.
reverse psychology when you make a
I
question.
think that's,
Yeah.
yeah.
It will. I think it'll wake them up when they walk in.
It grows on you.
Yeah, so do warts.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, a lot of things grow on you.
That's valid,
Yeah.
Brad.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yes. Yeah.
So we kick around memories, Russell and I, since we were here, and sometimes I'm like, man, Russell, that sounds just like what Alan would say, or like I get it, like, man, that sounds exactly like what Brad would say, and I guess my first question, I know I have some pretty vivid memories, and Brad, you and I talked about this when I asked you to come. I came into this program, and there was a little bit of a conversation maybe about me
Yeah.
entering this conversation or entering this program, and it was basically probably won't make it.
Yeah, your reputation preceded you.
Yeah, and rightfully so. I won't deny anything that was said, and I got to think, is there any memorable students, and you don't have to list them by name, you can if you want, if you don't want to, fine, but any memorable students that really stood out for you for one reason or another?
I had some, I remember a snowstorm. We didn't have school. At about 9 o'clock one night, one of the students called me and asked if he could borrow a wrench. And I said, sure, come and get it. So he did. Next day we had school. I said, what did you do with my wrench? We worked on our snowmobile. I said, okay, well, that's great. I'm sure that was fun. And then I found out later they actually had the snowmobile inside their rental house. They had the back end of it propped up on a table, and when they hit the throttle, it fell off the table, and the skis went through the wall of the house.
Oh,
They were surprised they didn't get their security deposit back.
Never saw that coming.
Yeah, I never saw that guy. Who'd have thought? And then, well, you were here. Remember the year that two of them, who should remain nameless, up here in the apartments on the other side of the interstate, they hooked the trucks back to back with the chain to see which one would pull the other.
Yeah,
Fire department got called. All the tire smoke people in the trailer
Yes.
park called the fire
I
department.
remember that.
Yes.
Yeah. We had one, it was a few years after that, I think, that they were doing the same thing.
Oh, really? Okay.
And he lost the front drive shaft pulled over.
Oh boy.
Yeah, he didn't think Dad was going to be too happy about the truck.
Imagine that.
No, probably not. His dad's truck to boot.
Yeah,
Well, okay.
His dad's truck.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That'd make it worse. Yes.
Well, a story that I remember, and this was in, I remember it not because it was my class, but because the person that did it, I still have a close association with. It was in Alan's class. It was the old 4430, the yellow 4430. It has an 8-speed power shift transmission. And Alan made the mistake of telling the students that you could go from full forward to full reverse without pushing in the clutch, without slowing down. So he said, don't do it, but it will do it.
Yeah.
And two students proceeded to try it. And Alan was not too happy with them.
Yeah.
And again, those two students will remain nameless.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
It's- They didn't get hurt. I think they might have had some bruising to the chest or the steering wheel.
Had the deer print of the
Yeah.
center emblem of the steering wheel on their chest.
Yeah.
I can imagine that would have been a ride.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was actually what you're supposed to do, testing those transmissions.
really.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
We
Yeah.
still get the don't do this, and they still do.
Oh,
Oh,
Right,
well,
yeah,
you tell them not to do something. They're like, I wonder. I
You
should
might
wonder
as
what
well
that's like.
tell them to do
Yeah.
it. If you're
Yeah,
gonna
you
tell
might
them
as
not
I
to
just
do
remember
it.
we had a couple that were speeding on campus, and they got called out pretty quick, and campus police came over and had a little chat, and they still to this day will not forget it, and it's still like a hard. I was coming through campus in the morning at probably 17 mile an hour is what my vehicle said, and I got called out. But hey, you were definitely going faster than the 15 mark, so they haven't forgot about it.
You know, I would getting you angry or riled up was not difficult to do in my time in the program. But Alan, if you were mad, you were more reserved in your mad. But I remember very vividly, and I don't know if you remember this or not. It was my class, class of 2005. If anybody's watching, there was an instance where Dwight Schilling called you about a festivity that occurred at the house next to the
Yes.
dealership,
Yes.
where maybe some students of this program decided it'd be fun to ride the oil well that was out back.
Yes.
I
Do you
remember
do you
this.
do you remember this?
I remember that, and
I do
the time
remember.
also that they drove through his garden.
Yes, he was more mad about that.
He
I
was.
think.
That's Dwight is such a level, smooth person. I would just always really like being around him. And that is probably the most angry I've ever seen Dwight. Was when they drove through his garden. They could have burnt down his house, and that wouldn't have made
Yeah.
much difference.
I agree.
But they drove through his garden.
We went out and fixed the ruts and bought new tomato plants and planted them shortly following that incident. But I was just wondering, curious, because you didn't leave many words. It was pretty blunt, the message
Yeah.
that we received.
Yeah.
Do it again and you're done.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think was
Yeah.
was a good one.
Yeah, Dwight was not happy about that, and of course, Dwight's a friend, and
Right.
I had to look out for him. So, yeah, I remember that.
I remember, and I remember it very vividly. I don't remember what it was. We would probably engaged in some extracurricular activity the night before, and we had come in, and we were probably a minute-ish late to electrical. And you stood in front of the class and you said, well, I'm very happy that you could take the time to join us. It would have been nice if you could have joined us on time. And I think, being the bright young gentleman that I was at the time, said, well, we were only a minute late. I show up at least a minute late to work every day. Do you remember what you told me? by chance?
Probably told you you wouldn't work for me very long.
You told me if you worked for me, I'd fire you.
Yeah, it's very simple. On time is late.
Yeah.
I've told my family that you're on time, you're late.
Yeah.
Right, Brad?
Absolutely.
5 minutes early is on time.
I never forgot that. It carried throughout my entire adult career. That exact moment.
At least I taught you something.
You can't even begin of what both of you
Yeah.
that I still retain. Whether it was life lessons or something about equipment, I learned a lot. Brad, one of the best ones. There was a classmate. This was hydraulics final day.
I think I know what story you're going to go ahead.
And we still do this. I actually take extreme pleasure in doing this. They're told, do not be late for a test. If you are late, you will not take the test. It was maybe 30 seconds. Like the clock struck. He's like, okay, walk to the back, click, the door locks, and then that student face appeared in the window of the door. Like, what are you doing? He's like, I told you, don't be late. And my God, he didn't take the final that day either. We still do that. We don't let him in. We don't let him late. Do you remember Combines class with? It was actually his, because my SOE was different. So I took
Right.
Combines with the class behind me as a sophomore. I took it with the freshmen. Do you remember me and JD Mike and Russell at all in that Combines class?
Is there
It's
something?
been a while.
It's been a minute. I don't expect you to, but
Yeah, it's been. I don't.
okay. That's probably good. That's probably a good thing, actually. Well, Russell did a lot of the work, and me and JD Mike sat up there and ate our broccoli cheddar soup from the cafeteria that used to be here.
In the grain tank?
In the grain tank.
Yeah.
Russell
I
was in there
remember.
just working away, and me and JD Mike were in there doing absolutely nothing. And
I remember hearing the story. Of course, I had no idea at the time.
one of the good ones that we took a pretty good chewing from you was Dr. Luther, some board members, and some other people came into the shop, and you had taken the class to a field to go see a combine in action. Well, I mean, on a farm, I see combines. I'm like, I'm going to work on the combine. You're like, do whatever. I don't care if you come or not. So we were there being not so gentlemanly, and we're having apparently quite a conversation in the grain tank with probably a lot of four-letter words and carrying on like nobody's business. And boy, you got back and like, you two out now. We're like, what did we do? And you're like, there was very important people in this building. They heard every word you said, and now I'm mad. You kicked us out for 2 days. So those are just some of the hygiene memories that I have. I still know how to spell hydraulics because of you, because that was day one test material, hydraulics.
Yeah, I always had two rules. It's not hard. If you misspelled or wrote something that I couldn't read on a test, then it was wrong.
Right.
The words that you were trying to spell were probably somewhere else on the test. Typically, the way my tests were written, a lot of times answers for other questions were found in the questions itself. And I told people that over and over and over again, but oh well, kids.
Yeah.
So, whenever I was in the program, what did you guys think that I would be doing afterwards?
I figured you would be at the dealership for a while. Didn't you farm to do that? That was what I saw. Glad you didn't.
So are we.
Yeah. Really glad you didn't. You've done great.
Yeah, and I have to admit that you could tell a lot of times if a young man came off of a farm and he was very involved in their farming operation, you could almost guess that he was going to end up going back on farming.
If he could. If
Yeah.
he could. Those were the best students, too. To me, those were always the best students.
Oh, absolutely. And I know that you had this as one of the questions, but this is a good segue. So what I saw as time went on, from the time the program started until I left, a lot fewer and fewer of those students came into the program. Even if they were involved on the farm, they weren't involved on the farm to the extent that they had a big advantage coming in because they weren't allowed to do a lot of the things that would have made them better students. So, and I think that got, but you know, that makes sense because we've gone from a 97% agrarian society to about a 3% agrarian society.
Yeah.
So that's just a natural progression to go along with what's happening in the industry.
Yeah, you could tell the students that had spent time on a farm, like him, I think of David Bolts. Remember David?
Yes,
David and Robert Bolts.
his brother. Yeah.
Yeah, they were the same way. They both thought they would go back and work on the farm. And you could tell they applied themselves like you did. You applied yourselves more, I think, to take, I don't know if you're going to take it back to the farm and use it or what.
So I know, like, whenever I first started looking at this, my dad liked it because, like, he normally worked on our own equipment.
Yeah.
Like, he'd call the dealership sometimes, like, air conditioning work
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. But, like, most of the stuff he tried to do himself.
Yeah.
I think he thought it was great because, oh,
Yeah.
would help out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that happened a lot. And then some of them probably did, like Brad said, some of them did go back to the farm, and others either the farm wasn't big enough or what. But they stayed at the dealerships, and the dealership had a really good technician.
We still have some that are like that, like the parents farm, but they know that there's not a way for them to be full time
Mhm.
farming.
Yeah.
And so, so they'll work at the dealership. Some will stay there for a while. It depends on the dealer. Some will work with them where they get a little time off
Yeah.
during the fall, so they can still be part of it, but still have a full time job too.
Mhm.
Dealers, and they seem to be pretty good.
Well, and I know that there are some dealers that will be very accommodating to a student or to a technician. They'll let them go and do their farming as long as they'll come and work when they can get away from the farm. Because, I mean, right now, there's such a need that
Right.
they're willing to work with them. And it's not just technicians at dealerships either. I know from experience from the farm that there are dealerships that sell chemicals. You know, they've got guys that come and operate when they can, but they may be on the farm several days in a row, but they still are short enough of operators. They're willing to let them go to the farm, spend some time, come and work when they can, and it works out well for both. But it does give them an excellent technician in that case because he knows firsthand what is expected.
Right. Well, and if they're getting experience on the farm, they're getting experience operating equipment that they're not going to get at the dealership.
Absolutely.
So like they're getting experience that they're going to bring back to work too. And you know, most of our students have operated stuff. It would be good for someone.
Mhm. It would have helped me. I would have helped me.
Me
Yeah.
too. Well,
Yeah.
so growing up on the farm, like, you know, I've been in the combine,
Mhm.
but combine we had at home, not the same combine we were working on here.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
I think we either had the 9400 or the 9510 at the time, and you know, it just wasn't the same. Our big tractor then was 4640, and came here and we have 8030. You know, so it was just different. It would've
But
been
still,
different operating.
at the same time, you knew what was expected of a combine. You knew what you were trying to accomplish with the combine. That put you ahead of a lot of students.
I think it helps too. Just being on the other side of that, these guys can understand, like as a customer or somebody who's operating a piece of equipment, they can take that back to the dealership and kind of have that. We talk about it with our students, right? Like being able to talk to customers, and you're not just wrenching, right? You're not just talking to a tractor all day.
Right.
You're talking to other people. You're talking to people in your workplace, talking to customers. I mean, there's a lot of these guys that go out, and those customers don't see, you know, the service manager or dealership manager. They're seeing a technician.
Right.
And being able to fluently talk back and forth to them is pretty
You know,
important.
it seems like we're getting more and more students that might be like a sprayer specialist, where they don't even they don't even start from a dealership in the
Mhm.
morning. Like they have a service manager that's probably at a different location.
The customers are calling them
Right.
to schedule, saying, "Hey, I've got this broke down. When can you get it to me?"
Right,
Versus they don't even contact the dealership.
Right. They essentially are doing their own planning throughout the
Mhm.
week. They have a service manager that they probably report to that they may be dealerships away.
Mm-hmm.
They get a lot of responsibility, but they also get paid well too.
Sure.
And
They
see,
should.
this is a good segue too, because this gets brought up quite a bit at the John Deere meetings, and even students will say it at the dealer advisory meeting. And like you started this with, and you both had said that a lot of your farm kids made really, really excellent students a lot of the time. Maybe not all the time, but a lot of the time. And knowing how this equipment works and what customer expectations are, I would say that John Deere and some dealerships would say that they need diagnostics. They need to know the ins and outs of this electrical system or hydraulic. Like we get told a lot that we're not like why theory classes? Like why do we need to teach theory classes? Like they're getting paid to fix and repair broken machinery. They don't need to know how it works. They need to know how to fix it. And I'm very much, I don't know if it's just because that's what we did here and that's how I came through the program, which helped me in my career tremendously. And I came from a farm. I operated the combine and thought I knew, and I didn't, but I thought I did. But what do you guys think? Do you think the theory is still relevant? Is that something that still should be very heavily taught and makes a well-rounded technician or not?
It's hard to tell if something's working right or wrong if you don't know what right is.
If you don't know the theory, you're going to replace parts till you get lucky. And you're going to hope that every failure is the same.
That's what I was
Swap
gonna say.
Gnostics.
Yeah.
You can replace parts all day long.
Yeah.
But unless you know how that system is supposed to work,
Yeah.
like you can. It's a lot easier to pinpoint.
So this exact same conversation just came up in diagnostics class earlier this week.
Okay.
And the point of the conversation was, how will you know if you fix something if you don't know if you fix it?
Yeah. You have to know what normal is.
Because I mean, it literally this conversation gets brought up a lot. It got brought up at IDW. You know, it gets brought up quite a bit. Like, well, theory, like we need to be spending more time on electrical, and then at every advisory meeting, it seems like diagnostics, top. I mean, everything diagnostics.
Right. And I
And
think
it-
that's important.
And don't get me wrong, I think it's also very important too.
But if you don't
But
have
to
the
not
base-
teach them how the combine, the baler, all of that, how it is supposed to, how it's intended to work, how a customer is expecting it to work. How do you know if it's broken?
it's a foundation thing, right? Like
Yeah.
anybody can build a house, but the foundation's junk.
Doesn't matter what you build on
Yeah,
top
the,
of
the
it.
house
Yeah.
is going to fall.
I assure you, your best diagnosticians are the people that understand the theory the best.
I would agree. Yeah. Those guys who can, let's say they read the theory of operation and actually fix.
Right.
Right,
I mean, those are the guys who seem to be the quickest out here.
absolutely.
And you could tell in class, I remember a couple students, especially, you were talking about theory. We had one young man from Missouri, and he'd sit in the front row. He'd just stare at me. Just at first, it kind of thought, why is he staring like this? But then you would notice after a while, he'd do this. It was good.
He was soaking it in.
He was soaking it in. Yes.
We have, Russ and I, Brent, we kind of all talk about this too, is the variation between classes is, it's kind of fun to see because,
Mhm.
we'll have one class that it feels like we can't get through the material as quickly because they're asking a lot of questions, which I'm fine with. I mean, if they're trying to retain that knowledge versus other classes where it's like, I feel like we really kind of blew through this. And, I mean, everybody learns at a different pace, right? But it's kind of fun to see the differences in groups of students.
Yes. I've noticed these students, it seemed like they learned like I did when I was in school. I was the type that I had to see something.
Mhm.
I had to touch this. If I'm going to try to fix something, figure out how it works, I need to touch it.
Yep.
And I think a lot of these students are the same way.
Then we talk about Russ and I mean, you guys did too, I'm sure, just had parts laying everywhere.
Oh, yes.
And guys were messing with them.
Yeah, I'd have a
and-
tractor in
and-
the classroom most of the time.
Yep.
So
Yep.
same thing.
Good.
Yep.
Good.
Yeah, and I got, when I did my Easter egg hunts on equipment, I got a lot of static about that. Why do we need to
still
do
do.
this?
Yeah.
I'll say,
Yeah.
I still get all sorts of heck for doing that.
Mhm.
The identification stuff, finding the numbers, or I use collared dots, finding the collared dots, and then name the component. What do you inspect? I still do that, and they hate it.
Yeah, but if the book says go fix this and you don't have any idea where this is,
What it looks like,
where
where's
you
it at?
start?
Yeah.
Well, my contention, and it leads us into another topic, is my contention is if I'm paying you $170 to $220 an hour and you call it the thing or that auger or like use the component name. What is it? Where did it come from? Don't just generalize it. I'm paying a pretty high labor rate. I expect you to be the professional technician. Call it by its name. So I get, and that brings us to another question. And when we talk about customer expectations from a technician, like Brad, you're still farming, you're still dealing with dealerships, more of a customer role than somebody that's training technicians now. What is your expectation of that young technician that maybe is a graduate of this program, or a program like this? Like, what do you expect?
Now, see, my expectation level might be a little different because I have both backgrounds. But you're right, I am still farming, and I asked one of the guys at the farm this question when I was teaching. I said, "What do you expect from a technician that comes out?" And his answer was, "I expect them to get it done correctly the first time, and I expect them to do it as quickly as possible." Now, my answer always was, from an instructor's standpoint, they expect you to do it yesterday and for nothing. That's what the farmer expected. But actually, like I said, my perspective is a little different. If a young man comes out and I know that he's maybe in training, he's on SOE, or he is very new, just graduated, I know that this program is designed to teach an entry-level technician. But unfortunately, a lot of times, even from the dealership's point of view and a customer's point of view, they think when they leave this program, they're an experienced veteran technician, and that's not the case.
No.
And I think that's kind of unfair to students that are in the program or recently graduated from the program. They really, the dealers need to inform their customers, and the dealers need to realize that we're doing something here that used to be done in secondary education or on the farm. We're making up for that shortcoming in their educational background. They're going to leave here with a lot more knowledge than somebody that graduated from high school ever. But let's face it, what they taught in high schools 50 years ago was exponentially greater than what they're learning now, because a lot of vocational education is non-existent.
Yeah, at a dealership, when I was at a dealership, somebody that came out of a program like this, I knew they didn't know everything. I realized that. But I expected them to want to learn. I always expected them to want to learn. I remember having one young man, I was busy taking care of some other things, and I had a simple water pump job. I handed him the manual and I said, "Read this. It will tell you how to take that water pump off. It will tell you what to do step by step." And he did. I was very impressed with that. And I always tried to teach the youngins like that. But I expected them to want to do that. Once in a while you get one that thought he knew everything and he didn't have time to look at the manual. But I expected them to want to learn as much as anything. I expected them to have basic knowledge about how to test a battery. Use that as an example. That's kind of down there on the totem pole a little bit. But I expected them to be able to do those things without a lot of supervision. I expected them to be watching the other technicians in the shop to see how they do things. I always told the students that watch the other guys in the shop, see how they do things, see what they do. If they're taking something apart, see how they do it first. Always watch other people. You learn so much that way. That was kind of what I expected out of new students, was just a willingness to learn both from me, from the manuals, from the other guys in the shop. That seemed to work well most of the time.
And I think something that you just said reminded me that a lot of times if we had a student that came in that knew absolutely nothing and really wanted to learn, was a better student than somebody that came in and had some experience, but it wasn't good experience.
Yes,
sure.
yeah, yeah. Well, this is how my uncle did it, or somebody.
Right.
That wasn't always good.
They hadn't learned the bad habits
Yeah.
when they
Yeah.
didn't come in with anything.
You know, it kind of seems like now with the turnover that's been had in one of the service departments, that like whenever a student is on internship or after they leave, they don't have the guys that are like in their 50s, the ones that they can have good experience.
Right.
There's not as many of those people around.
I wondered about that. That's certainly not a job for an old person to do. But I wondered about that too. Are there the 40, 50-year-olds out there still to teach it?
I think there are some. It's not like it used to be.
Yeah.
It's a job full of guys in their 30s.
Yeah.
And they just haven't had the experience
Yeah.
that years ago there's people there.
Absolutely.
Well, and just because you're a good technician doesn't make you a good teacher.
Right.
Especially on internships, if the student is paired with a technician that is stellar, if that student can't learn by absorption on what they're seeing and hearing, that is not necessarily going to help that student if that technician is not interested in teaching. And several of them aren't. I mean, technicians, they're there to do a job and they go home.
Mhm.
The teaching's just hopefully something that happens, but not always.
I think
Not always
attitude
the
goes into
case.
that as well. I mean,
Sure
you
it
guys,
does.
You guys know people who were really good technicians that really just didn't want to be around. I mean, they were
Oh,
not much
grumpy.
fun to be around.
Oh
you know.
man,
Kind of-
so grouchy.
There's a lot of independence out there.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
To be nice.
Yeah.
Something that comes up every year in shop school is that the people that you work with are there to do a job. You need to get along with them, and you need to realize the value that they have to help you.
Yes.
So don't piss them off.
Yeah. And you
Yeah.
might be able to help them with some things too.
Mhm.
You've had 2 years of using Service Advisor. Is it still called Service Advisor?
Service center
Service
now.
Center.
We
Okay.
still have both, but
Okay.
yeah.
You've had 2 years of using that. You might be able to help that 35, 40 guy there that hasn't had that. I always told them that. It's just, don't be obnoxious about it. Don't say, here, let me show you. But just demonstrate to them.
So, Russ, to one of your points, I'll never forget one of the first jobs I had out of school here. First day on the job, you know, they're kind of showing me around, and there's an older gentleman there, and they said, "Hey, would you like to meet Scotty, the new guy?" And he looked at me off the top of the cup and goes, "Nope," and turned around and walked off. And I thought, "Oh
Thanks.
man, this is gonna be rough."
This is going to be fun.
I learned so much from that man. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, it took a while to break the ice and warm up, but
Mhm.
You probably had to prove yourself to it.
Yep.
I would
Yes.
back.
Yep, he had
Yeah.
seen a lot of younger guys come and go, and it was kind of a I'm
Yeah.
not going to waste my time if I don't need to. And I worked with him for a lot of years, and I was very very blessed with that relationship. But yeah, sometimes you kind of got to break through that, I guess.
Well, and Russ, to bring up a point too, we just sat through a one-on-one dealership meeting, and we were talking to the CEO of this dealer group, and they're a prominent location. A lot of business goes through this location, and he was literally like, "Look, we're not like a lot of other satellite locations. We have so much business. When you're here, you need to work. All the relationship building and the friendships and all like that's kind of irrelevant because you should be busy almost every minute of every day, and you should want to leave here as soon as that 5 o'clock hits and just go. Like you shouldn't want anything to do here. How do you feel about that? Like is that like I know that you need to get along with the people you work with, but to the point, it doesn't have to become a personal relationship. It can be a work relationship, professional relationship. without needing to know the drama of everything going on in their life and what's going on at their house or their significant other, and how much does that impact the shop work getting done? And I guess as a customer aspect, the customer in me is like, yeah, I don't want them sitting back there talking about what's going on at home or a spouse or what. I want them working on my machine because I'm getting billed X amount per hour. But I've been on the other side. I've worked at the dealership, and yeah, I've had a lot of those personal connections with other, and where we have, I will call it wasting time. What do you guys think about that?
You need to be friends. You need to be able to get along. I had one person working in the shop, and he wasn't happy unless somebody was upset with somebody else. I'm not sure why but he seemed to.
We've worked with a technician.
Company in misery.
Yes,
right?
we have.
Yeah, he didn't want, and it made it hard. It made it hard. But yeah, I think everybody needs to be friends. You need to get along. I'm not saying you need to go out and eat with them every weekend, but I do think that you need to try to establish a friendship with your coworkers.
I think there's different dynamics.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes all kinds, right? So
Yes.
you're going to go into some dealership where it's very stringent and it's, versus going to another one where it's a little more family feel, I guess. And I think that's where, like, you guys have all seen different groups of students, right? You've seen the ones that are no nonsense. They want to come in, work, go home. Then you see other ones that are maybe a little bit lighter hearted, per se, and they might need a different working spot for that. Yeah.
I think something I've seen is that, like, if the atmosphere is stale almost, it's like they get to a point where they despise you in there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's not good either. I mean, you don't want people to take your work. They're not going to.
Right. And that's what I was going to say. You need a balance. You can't have the environment be adversarial, because then nobody is efficient and nobody gets along, and then they don't work with each other to make things go better for everyone. At the same time, you're right. You can't waste too much time. But I tell you what, in every job that I've had, and I've had several, when I left there, the thing I missed the most was the people that I left, not the job that I left. It was the people that I left. So having a good working relationship, no matter, I mean, as a technician, as a banker, as a teacher, as
Working here.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
That getting along with the people is as important as what you're trying to accomplish.
I've had coworkers that would do anything they could to help you, and then I've had coworkers that they didn't want to see you succeed because they wanted to be known as the top dog.
Right.
And you certainly remember both times. Yeah. I always tried to get the students to understand that. I'd say everybody else in the shop may tell you the service manager is a pain. You're not going to like him. You don't like him. Don't fall into that trap. Don't go there. Form your own opinion of him. Just because somebody else doesn't like him doesn't mean you don't have to not like him. I always tried to get the students to believe that. Now, whether anybody ever heard me say it or not,
And now, to your point, this kind of comes up fairly regularly. Like, guys,
I just
come
had this
back
conversation
and they're
Monday
like,
with
"Oh,
Turf
the service
Class.
manager," and I try to tell them, I said, because I was told this years and years ago, that position tends to roll over much more than your job out here on the floor, right? So with that, it's like, don't hate your job. If you love it, love it. Whoever's above you, they may switch roles, and that can change. And a boss can, unfortunately, can make a job great or not as much fun. But
don't take other people's opinion. Don't start working there and listen to somebody else say you're not going to like it. Don't do that.
and it's hard because these guys are young, right?
Exactly.
They're very impressionable.
Yes, they are.
Sure.
So
Yes.
yeah, they can take
Yeah,
some of that and go the wrong way with it.
yeah, one of the shops I worked in was like that. Everybody didn't like the service manager as an example, but he wasn't a bad guy. I don't think I ever really understood why they didn't like him.
It's amazing how much shop nuance that gets taught in a program like this. And personally feel like we have to do more of it
Mhm.
all the time. It's the don't worry about the guy next to you. Worry about what you're doing.
Yes.
Keep your eye on the prize. You have a task, complete the task, move to the next task. Comparing yourself to somebody next to you in the shop or what somebody else did or what they make or whatever else. I'm like, life's full of choices.
We
You
just-
made yours. Do the work to the hardest, and that was your choice.
I'm sure
So
Russ has had this conversation. I know I did about with diagnostics and advanced electrical. Like, guys, you all have different jobs out here, and some are more complex than others, and some skill sets are different than others. So, if one guy's on lab 3 and you're still on lab 1, don't get discouraged by it, and don't everything's different out here. Just like you guys are out in the shop. I mean, every job that comes in through that door is different than the next.
Everybody has strengths and weaknesses.
Mhm.
And if you're using diagnostics as an example, you may have a group that has an electrical problem and they're good at electrical
Mhm.
and it clicks.
Mhm.
And the next group may struggle with it. But then on the other side of that coin, those two may flip when you get to a hydraulic or a mechanical problem.
it's funny. We've alluded to it, and I said it. I feel like there's an extreme amount in some of our students of unjustified competence. Like it just they came through a program like this. They go back to the dealership and they tout it and they flaunt it, and I'm just like, man, you don't compare because you've come here and you have learned basics, you've learned fundamentals and maybe some advanced stuff. It is hard to supplement being there every day, doing it day after day and in it, because that's just experience that you can't teach here.
Right.
Still, they only have, whenever they graduate, they have 20 weeks worth of full-time work with whatever miscellaneous time they could get in throughout the semester despite that. In those scheme of things, that is not much at all.
No, gosh, I
But
mean,
we do see some change, right, from that freshman year.
Oh,
when they come back to sophomores. Right?
we
'Cause-
should. We haven't always in all the classes
Yeah.
graduated here, but this current sophomore, I saw there's a giant change between when they left in the summer to when they came
And it
back
can,
in
it can go
October.
both ways, right? We can see a lot of growth from students that were like, wow, we're not really sure where they're going to end up. And they come back off that SOE and it's like, wow, they've really picked up a lot and gained some confidence. And maybe on the flip side of that coin too, right? Where you've got guys who came in here, day one, like, well, I know all the ins and outs of this program. I'm just here to get a degree. And then they go on that SOE and they come back with a little bit different demeanor because, they kind of learn, well, maybe I don't know quite everything.
Well, we hope they buy in
You're right.
because for a lot of them, they didn't come from a farm.
Mhm.
They didn't go through the vocational program at school. Some of them have never really held a tool before, ever. This is a first job for a lot of our students, and I feel like that definitely changed a little bit from even going back to the early days of this program. I would say the vast majority of the students that came through this program were probably majority off the farm kids.
Yeah.
Or were heavily involved in an FFA or a 4-H or something where they have done something like this throughout childhood, whether it was on their own farm or otherwise.
You're talking about Russell building, lawnmower
This is
ranges.
Russell out in the yard with
Yeah.
Dan and
Yeah.
going to town,
Jumping the starter
jumping
with
the
the
starter with
battery,
yeah, figuring
It's the
stuff
spoil,
out.
it's the spoil, the spark plug story. I
It
like
depends
that.
whether you had a go-kart or a mini bike when
Yes.
you were a kid.
Yes.
You were forced to work on it because
You had to.
Right.
yeah.
We didn't have any money.
Yeah, it didn't have any money. Mom and Dad weren't going to shell out any money to replace it. Like we didn't have an Amazon.
Well, that we couldn't tell them what we were doing anyway.
Well, yeah, because they wouldn't want us doing it. You're exactly right.
Yeah, there's that too. Yeah, and back then, something I noticed when we were, excuse me, when we were in school, especially Brad and I, you changed the oil in your own car. You had to change the spark plugs at least once a year
Oh,
if
absolutely.
you wanted to get any place.
Right.
But that doesn't happen anymore.
Did you torque them to ambient temperature, Brad?
No.
You made us do it in class.
Yeah.
I learned I learned as I got older too, Brent.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, but how many of the students now even change the oil in their car?
Right.
I still
Almost
do.
none.
Yeah.
Probably.
I mean, we encourage them to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
in the
Do
shop,
it here, yes.
but-
My favorite line, because this has come up, is one guy had mentioned hey, could I get out of class a minute too early because I've got an oil change? And I looked at him and I said, you're becoming a technician. Like, you can do your own. Well, I'm leasing this vehicle, so they have to do it. But I like to heckle him a little bit.
Talking the taco truck.
Possibly,
Yeah.
yes. I don't want to throw names out, but yeah, it could be a.
But as an educator, it doesn't matter if it's in this program or if you're teaching fourth grade, there's always a huge disparity between the abilities of your students.
Mhm.
And you just have to kind of target the middle and hope that some come up and the others are patient enough to wait.
Sure.
Well, that wasn't on the list of questions, but I'm going to ask this question anyway. There has been a kind of a switch, and some of this is some of the major manufacturers. They're changing their training and how they're facilitating training, and a lot of dealerships, and I don't think it's just John Deere dealerships, but I think it's broad that they're doing these internship programs or apprenticeship programs. They're creating their own training facilities. And the consensus is, well, why don't we just train them ourselves? We can throw enough shop work at them. And then basically it's kind of the throw you in the pool, you either swim or you don't. But with what you just said, you have students at this level, and then you have some students a little bit at a different level. Do you think dealerships can navigate those waters successfully in what you've seen in your time dealing with dealers?
What I fear will happen at the dealership level is they'll want to do it with people who are doing something else at the same time. They don't want to pay somebody to be strictly a trainer. They'll want to put them in with other people, and like you said, some people may or may not be real receptive to having someone shadow them all the time. And especially if that person is being paid based on performance. If they would, and I know some dealerships that have people that would be perfectly capable of this, and this would be a great place for an older technician that, like you and I, that we're not as young, and agile, and
Yeah, you do the heavy work. And I'm gonna
Exactly.
tell you what to do. Yeah.
Well, and I've had this at the farm too. I've finally gotten smart enough to realize I can't do everything that I used to do. I mean, it took me 40 years, but if they would make somebody specifically a trainer, it might work. But my other fear is, it goes back to something we talked about earlier, they would skip the theory of operation and just go directly to diagnosing and repairing. And then the level of understanding wouldn't be there. Now, the other side of that is when students leave here and new equipment comes out, kind of like we were talking about at home versus here, when new equipment comes out, are they going to take the time to read the theory of operation? I know they can go to a service school and maybe get the basics of it, but are they going to take the time to read thoroughly the theory of operation so they're very fluent in that particular piece of equipment or that system?
Right. They're going to need to see the importance in it enough that they will be willing to do it themselves.
Absolutely.
They've got to want to learn.
My fear with that, Brent, is because we've seen these students come through that maybe weren't very strong at first. And over the 2 years here, you've seen them just become standout techs. I feel like in that operation, the sink and swim, they may not be able to swim at first, right? We can slow roll this to them. And we all know students that are that way. That's like, man, they've really done something for themselves and really became great. But, you've probably seen it with people running equipment, right?
Sure,
Like, it's
absolutely.
always that if you know how to run something, you're good to go.
Yep.
Versus, well, if you don't, you don't. Well, there are kids who don't know but are willing to learn, and they can
Absolutely.
become good operators.
Right.
But you're saying,
there's a point where they don't know enough yet
Right.
to even really know how to figure out what to learn.
They have no comfort because they've never been around this
It's a
before.
lost
They've never
potential
seen.
thing, I guess, for me.
Yeah.
Is I hate to see lost potential.
so you need somebody to pull them out of the pool before they drown
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
that first time.
And do you
That's kind
think?
of what I would think? with
Do you
that.
think that'll happen at the dealership level with what you've seen or been around? Do you
I would-
think that they would know to pull them out before the drowning occurs? I guess, to use that metaphor.
No.
Sometimes they do. Yeah, we had a couple students that you could tell, but I always thought sometimes that was my fault. I should not have told this young man to go. I think of one very good technician who we had as a Latham student, and I sent him out on a couple things. It was my fault. I was busy. I thought he can do this. He can fix this. I would send him out on something that wasn't fair to him. If we were really busy, I'd say, you go do this. And it wasn't fair to him. I was putting him in a place I never should have.
But that makes you a good teacher. To me, I mean, for
Yeah, I
you,
don't
for you
know.
to reflect back and
Yeah,
think,
'cause
you know
I-
what, I need to be
Yeah, I
doing that
need to
differently.
pay a little more attention.
So this was when you were a service
Service
manager.
manager.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tell people to do things that they weren't ready for. And that happens sometimes. But you get busy, the phone's ringing, you get busy, and you've got 10 people waiting on a technician to come to their house, and you think, well, we're going to take a chance on this one.
But yeah, is there a time maybe when you have to take the chance
Yes.
and
I
you know
throw him to the lions, see who comes back.
yeah, give them let them take the chance that they're maybe not comfortable with.
Yes.
But
Yeah, that happened to me when I started in the dealership, and I did that sometimes too. Just, I mean, especially maybe it was some customer who had a reputation for being a little hard to get along with, or some do, and just throw them out there and see what happens.
And some of them will surprise you
Yes, and some of them won't.
because they'll succeed,
Yes,
and some of them will confirm your
hmm
worst fears.
yes, yeah, yeah. And I told the students that too when I was here. I told the students that there's going to come a time they're going to have to throw you out there. I always use the metaphor, throw them to the lions, and just see who comes back. See what happens. So, sometimes it works.
but
Yeah.
there has to be a point there where they go from working with somebody to just being self-sufficient.
Yes.
Being technician on the service call where they can be sent out and hey, there you go.
This is your job.
Yeah, it's important for the dealer to understand.
Their specific student though.
Correct.
And that, you know, they may have had a student that was top of their class, top of everything, and then
Yeah.
they may have a student that was marginal, and they need to understand that
Yes.
what they ask those students to do, especially at the beginning, needs to be very different.
Right.
You know, we were talking a little bit ago about like people getting to know each other in the dealership and stuff like that. And hopefully the service manager would get to know the technician good enough that they would know when they're at a point that's comfort instead of taking somebody.
That kind of, I've been on SOE visits before where I walk in, I'm like, hey, I'm looking for such and such. And I've literally heard, who?
Right.
I'm like, this is your student. Like, you've been with him for quite a few weeks now. I would
Yeah.
hope you'd at least know where he's at.
Yeah, building a little bit of a
It's a little bit hard.
relationship so that so the service manager has a little more comfort that person is going to be able to do the task, and then the other side too that the technician, they're at a point where they may struggle a little, but whenever they make it, it'll be a good confidence booster.
Well, it makes you feel better when you walk in and you're saying, hey, I'm looking for, I got him on service call doing this. Like, he
Yes.
knows where they're at. They know
Mhm.
what that student, is somewhat capable of.
Yeah.
I just feel like the buy-in has got to be better there.
If they felt confident enough in the student to send him on a service call by himself, that tells you something about your student.
Yes.
Yeah. If they've got him out doing something like that by himself,
Absolutely.
that's a good student.
Well, and we talk about the variation of student.
Mhm.
You have that same variation at the dealership.
Sure.
Some service managers are completely in. They completely understand how the program is supposed to work. And they'll start them where they need to start and work them up and pay attention and be very involved in that whole process. And then other service managers are just, there's the shop, bring your tools in, here's what you got to do. And
I mean, and
Hands off.
that can all kind of lead into working environment too, right? For,
Oh, absolutely.
With just that service managers knowing where their guys are at or what they can do. I feel like that shop flow would be much better versus the guy that's just and go do it, and we'll see what happens.
You know, that's a job that I don't envy at all. Having to deal with customers,
No.
having to deal with management, having to deal with the people in the shop, and then, you know, hopefully be the good guy, but also be the bad guy too, and
Yeah.
everything in between, and be able to handle all that at the same time in so many different situations.
Well, and you've seen every different possibility in a service manager from just visiting all the dealerships in the Midwest now. You've seen from somebody that's completely involved and completely in control to somebody that,
Right, is as
Shouldn't be
hands
there.
off as possible.
Right.
And, yeah, the ones where they don't hardly know the technicians' names versus the ones where they are actually pretty close, and you can ask where any technician is at any time, and they know.
right.
Let's take a quick pause. I think we're having